Hi, everybody. Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel. I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of November 25th through December 1st. And it will be two events mainly: Mercury going retrograde for the third and final time this year in Sagittarius, in a fire sign again. And then we've got the new moon in Sag at about 10 degrees, and it's in a loose T square, mutable T square, with opposite Jupiter, its ruler, and both square Saturn, which just went direct in Pisces. And a couple other little things I'm going to talk about too. And I just want to remind everybody that this is a free service that I'm giving. And if you can pass the link along to somebody else, I'd really appreciate that. It's available on YouTube. If you have a YouTube account, you can become a follower, turn on your notifications. Also available on podcasts. Just look up Astrological Wind Channel. You should find it out there. Also available on Instagram and also on my website, www.astrologicalwinds.com. That also has my menu for all the professional services that I offer. So if you want to check stuff like that out, I've been a professional astrologer for over 20 years. Would love to do your chart. I do all kinds of readings, group events, students, things like that. So check out the website for that. And so, check out the website in general for some other stuff. If you need to go back and find some of the past blogs, they're all there also. So appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Like I said, big events this week are Mercury going retrograde today on Monday. And then we also have the new moon. So let's talk about the Mercury retrograde first. And it's in Sagittarius, and all three of the Mercury retrogrades this year were mainly fire signs. So remember, the last one did start in Virgo and then it went back into Leo, and the one before that was in Aries. So usually when we get when Mercury starts a retrograde, it'll hit the same element like 3 times in a row. So this is the last one, the fire one, and this one's a little bit trickier because it is in Sagittarius. And I've been talking about, already, how Mercury in Sagittarius is weak traditionally because it's in detriment there, and it's because of this tendency to overlook details. So here it's going to go retrograde at in Sagittarius at 23 degrees actually, and then it will backtrack all the way till December 14th to about 7 degrees Sagittarius. So so here it's gonna stay in Sag the whole time. And I think, when you think about what Mercury retrograde is, right? A lot of you guys are very familiar with the generalizations of Mercury retrograde. Things don't go normally, basically, right? Mercury has so much to do with our normal world: communications, business, education, information, travel. All those things get affected when Mercury goes retrograde. And again, when you think about those 5 or 6 things, it's a lot of what we spend our time doing, right? Every day. So when Mercury goes retrograde and those things aren't operating the way they normally do, it can really, throw us off. And so, like, when you think about like Mercury retrograde in Sag, why would all those things get thrown off is most likely that same thing: overlooking details, right? Overlooking, having like grand visions, having big plans, having thoughts about the future and the way you want it to be and things like that, and then realizing you really, never really took care of the details. And now this Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius comes, and it's going to really force you to see where you've fallen short, where you've made mistakes. Basically, the chickens come home to roost, all the things that you didn't really properly pay attention to are probably going to be part of the reason the effects of this Mercury retrograde will be slowing you down individually and then even in society too. The same thing playing across collectively. So unfortunately, once again, these last Mercury retrogrades always have a tendency to be right around the holidays, and this one around the holidays. So like the travel snafus can be very, very, very real with this one. But yeah, this is going to be the problem. And when you think, with Mercury retrograde, I've said this before, we go about 3 months, and and we're collecting a lot of information, you're making a lot of plans, making a lot of connections with people, and then all of a sudden, boom, Mercury retrograde comes, and all the 3 months of that outward energy comes back to us. And this is where we really need to reassess everything, where we need to reevaluate everything, where we need to review everything and what's not working in those things. So it's like a forced natural cycle for us to come back in and make sure that, we've taken care of the things that we need to take care of in those plans and visions of the last 3 months. And in particular, with this one in Sagittarius, it really is showing, yes, these are the things that are going to make us get tripped up, places where we were sloppy, where we weren't paying attention to the details, where we thought, it would just work out somehow, projecting that kind of energy. And then all of a sudden we see all the things that we overlooked are going to be the things that are going to slow us down, so it's like, it's an interesting thing. And we're going to have to, remember too, that it's going to go back and hit the opposition to Jupiter that I talked about so much last week, which is also about what? Overlooking details. Jupiter in Gemini, also in a weak sign right now. So, so this is where we're going to be at for the next 3 weeks, and just really having to be careful about our decision making when we're in this, because with the Sagittarius energy, we're going to continue to want to push forward anyway. And what that can end up doing is compounding the damage that we're doing. And also Sagittarius can get really full of itself, fire sign, and be like, well, I'm right. And I'm going to just keep pushing in this way and get arrogant and coercive. And you're just going to keep making it worse and worse for yourself. You're just blowing the things out of proportion. So we really need to understand that, this is a time where we got to lasso that energy back in, that Mercury, during Mercury retrograde, and not keep making the same mistakes and compounding the problem, because we have this weak spot in Sagittarius where, of course our big vision is going to work out, in reality, when we really need to get on to reviewing and reevaluating and finding out why so far it hasn't, so this is going to be an interesting Mercury retrograde period. It's going to be so much about seeing that in any ways that we're getting messed up by it, that we didn't take care of details, and some consequence came out of that. Now, I've been talking about Jupiter Chiron sextile all for 3, 4, 5 weeks now, and this week Venus is actually going to get involved with the Jupiter Chiron sextile. On Tuesday and Wednesday, Venus will quincunx Jupiter and will also square Chiron. Now, interestingly enough, if you have the horizons when you're outside around dusk and you can see horizon to horizon, you'll see Venus out on the west, southwest kind of side of the sky, and Jupiter is coming up in the east at the same time. So you can almost see this quincunx. They're not exactly opposite. Venus is a little bit higher, so it's that 150 degrees, but you can actually go out there and see this aspect this week, is my point. Okay, you guys, so and this one, to wrap it all up really quickly with this one, it's really realizing that in our search for love and affection and acceptance through relationships, that many times we sacrifice a lot of our own values and accept maybe people who don't live up to them. And then they can get us into these tricky situations that, now we're being forced to adjust to. They can actually hurt us even, and damage relationships. So this is one of these ones where we get, and one of that, and a lot of times that can come back to you too. It can be where you're not even living up to the values of what you want in relationships, and it like is literally like separating, like showing you, like, you have this separation between what you say you really want in relationships and the way that you're actually acting in relationships. So this one's like one where it's going to put it in your face a little bit, and it can be like through a relationship that like you really see, like, this is not like, this is a disconnect and it's not working right and it's causing pain, and I have to make some kind of adjustments. I might have to let go, I might have to release, have to do things like that. So this is something like, like I said, we want to be really, just aware of. It's not a huge transit, but once again, we can learn a lot about ourselves and get greater understanding of ourselves and other people through the Jupiter Chiron sextile, if we can see who these people are that we're kind of bringing ourselves down to relate to, and how we need to like maybe make some adjustments and move away from them because our relationship with them is causing us damage, just because we do relate to them. And then Wednesday, we have the Sun trine Mars, which is actually part of the new moon makeup too. In fact, I didn't even put that in there, but the moon is actually trining Mars too. So, I mean, so on Wednesday, we get the sun trining it first, and that means there's going to be a lot of energy accessible to us on Wednesday. Wednesday will be a day where you can really further your projects, put your nose down to the things you want to work and push ahead. And if you don't have something like that going on, it's a great day to do anything physical, like go out and do a hike or whatever, sports, athletics, something where you can really, put energy into things. Now, with the sun trine Mars, we can really move at our own pace, and it can be difficult for other people to keep up with us. But so it's many times best to work alone on those projects and whatever you're doing, right? But if it is a good teamwork type aspect too, because the trine is very harmonious. So if you have people that are in a team and you're working towards a goal, like a team in sports, then it can be very flowing energy for that, and you can really further those projects along. And then we come to the big day, and that is the new moon here in Sag at 10 degrees, which means the moon is conjunct the sun, right? So that's where you want to look in your chart, is where 10 degrees Sag is, and that's where the new moon will fall in your chart. Now, remember, always, you guys, most of you know this, new moon is our seeding time, right? It's a time, so that house is going to show you where that is. And like I said, it is actually coming off that it's Mars trine too. So I'll put let's see if we can get this to cooperate here. Mars up here, and then we got the trine going to Mars too. So this new moon in Sag, once again, what's Sag all about? It's wanting to seek out a new adventure. It's wanting to you're going to want to go to a new horizon somewhere. You're wanting to push the envelope, to go out to the edge. It's about learning more. It's about higher learning. It's about things you already have a base knowledge about, and you have a very, very strong interest in knowing more. And so you're going out there and you're pushing that envelope to the edge. And that brings us a wide vision, and it brings in a lot of tolerance usually. So like we're willing to take information from places that we might not normally be open to, like maybe people with different backgrounds, people from different cultures, information from other cultures. Sag is about independence and freedom. It gives that to others, and it wants it for itself. It does not want to be tied down, especially by emotional stuff. So it's going to run away from that stuff. It wants that freedom, but it always has like a very positive attitude. It's one of the fire signs. It's pushing ahead. It's optimistic. It spreads this very good energy around. The problem with Sag is, very much married to its beliefs, and if it gets to a point where it really thinks it knows what's going on, it can get arrogant and pompous about that and think, I've got all the answers for everyone. and can get like a little bit coercive even about trying to push that. And then many times, once again, what's the problem with Sag? Overlooking the details. So you might not have all the answers to everything. So before you start pushing stuff like that, you should be really, really clear that that's what, that you're right about that, but this is, the Sag, this is that Sag energy. So we want to push something out, looking in that house, and then being fed by Jupiter too. Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, right? So but it's actually in Gemini, which is a sign that it's weakened. So we have this weak Jupiter and that weak Mercury too, which is down here in Sag, not quite conjunct the new moon, and retrograde. So once again, what's this saying? Be careful in this new moon of falling right into that same trap again of like overlooking details with these greater visions. You're, can keep very positive with this energy, and get a lot of back and forth from people, learn things from people, but we can get very, once again, complacent or almost feel like details are a pain in the butt. So the good thing about this is we've got Saturn in this mutable T-square with the sun and moon and Jupiter. And why is that good? Because Saturn is like the counteracting balance here. The T-square, yes, that is a aspect of great tension that forces us to do some things. But Saturn here is like putting the reins on the horses of that Sagittarius horse that's running with the horizon. Is like, slow down, slow down. We need to do this step by step. Jupiter and square Saturn together is like, go through things. What's not working? Get rid of that. What needs to be shored up? Work on that. Build a solid foundation step by step. Sacrifice some of what you're like wanting right now to happen for a stronger future and something that's more stable, right? And so that's even like with the sun and moon, this can be a little bit like, oh, you're putting a little bit of a damper on my trip. I really, was like, boom. And now you're like, whoa, you're pulling me back. But it's grounding us to reality, this one, right? It really is. And then you even look at the open end of the T-square, the opposite side of this is Virgo. What's that about? We have to take care of the details if we want these visions. Otherwise, this is just going to be a mess here. And especially with Saturn in Pisces too, because Saturn in Pisces will feed that fanatical belief system that completely is overlooking details. And especially with Mercury retrograde, I'll be honest with you guys, this is like a really messy period these next few weeks. And then next month we have Mars going retrograde too. So it's going to even get crazier. It's hard to say, that I think what's going to happen is just like we're going to see a lot of places, like not only in our own lives, but in society itself, where a lot of the details that were being overlooked are really going to mess things up for a while, and slow things down and slow us down. But, we're coming off that trine to Mars, so there's that energy there too. But this Saturn is, and the open end of the T-square, the Virgo is saying, once again, you have to somehow harness this energy. You have to somehow control all this outward expanding energy that's so full of like these visions. If you want any of them to be real, you have really got to get down to the hard work that does that, and start, being discerning about what is working and what's not working and things like that. So very, very interesting. Like I said, look at the house that 10 degrees Sag is in, and you'll know where that's going to be mainly happening for you in your chart. And I'm always available for short new moon readings too, if you need that. So the last thing I want to mention is Sunday. So remember when Mercury goes retrograde, the 2 weeks or so before it goes retrograde, any of the aspects it makes to planets as it's going in, it's going to aspect them again when it goes backwards over them retrograde, and then aspect them a third time when it goes direct again. And what I talked about last week was that big Mercury-Jupiter opposition, which was trine Chiron and sesquiquadrate Mars at the same time. So on Sunday, it comes back to the Chiron-Mars part. So there's going to be a Mercury trine Chiron and a sesquiquadrate Mars. and it'll start setting us up for the second Mercury-Jupiter opposition next week. So once again, yes, we need to take care of the details of things, and they can be annoying. That can be the Mercury-Mars thing. I'm just like the ego, like, oh, I feel stuck here. I really thought I was over this hurdle already. I didn't realize I had to do this, this, and this too. So, it can be frustrating, like, and once again, that also feeds that fanatical belief stuff that the Sag energy can have. So we got to be really careful of that. But if we can be, it shows Mercury trine Chiron, we can learn a lot from this. They can be very assisting to us in the way we look at things and the way we do things. So really interesting energy, and it's going to come back. So that's what I got for this week. Next week, like I said, Mercury is going to go back over that Jupiter, but even more important, Mars is going to go retrograde at the same time. And that's going to be really tough, you guys. Like Mars retrograde to me is like Mercury retrograde on steroids, really. So we're going to have a really slowed down period for most of December and January in many things. And so I will not only do the weekly next week of December 2nd through 8th, and talk about that. Neptune's going direct that week. Venus is going to go into Aquarius and hit Pluto right away. There's a lot of stuff. The sun's inferior conjunction to Mercury retrograde. But I'll also get into December. And I can tell you right now that Mars retrograde is going to be one of the biggest things in December, if not the single biggest thing. So we'll look at all that next week. So, okay. That's what I got for you guys this week. I really would love if you could pass the link along right now to somebody. I'd appreciate that. If you'd like to give any kind of donation, no amount is too small. There's my Cash App and my Venmo right there. And like I said, no amount is too small. I appreciate it all. If you're a student or you're a group or an individual looking for some kind of professional astrological service, you can check my website, www.astrologicalwins.com, or you can email me, matthure823@gmail.com, and we can get that process going, and I'll work with you on that. And remember too, if you're a professional who's looking for like monthly, weekly, or even daily service, I do that also for people who, really wanting like astrological counseling guidance in their everyday life with their business and whatever, So just get in touch with me and we can talk about that. All right, you guys, I will see you all next week, and we'll look into December, and we'll look into that week of the 2nd through the 8th. Take care now.